In a remote village in Africa lived a pastor named Peter. To the villagers, Pastor Peter was a beacon of hope, a man who performed miracles and spoke words that could soothe even the most troubled hearts. His church, a modest building adorned with simple decorations, was always filled with believers seeking solace and miracles. But behind the curtains, Pastor Peter harbored a dark secret unknown to the villagers. His miraculous powers were not gifts from God, but the result of dark, forbidden practices. Pastor Peter had discovered an ancient ritual that allowed him to steal the destinies of young women. By seducing them and using their spiritual energy, he could enhance his own powers, making his miracles more spectacular and ensuring his influence over the village grew even stronger. He learned these dark arts from a mysterious book he had stumbled upon during his youth, a book that had long been hidden away in the depths of a forgotten cave. Peter's method was cunning. He would target vulnerable young women, those who were struggling with life's challenges and who sought his guidance and support. He would offer them special prayers and one-on-one counseling sessions late into the night. Under the guise of helping them, he would exploit their trust and innocence. One such young woman was Jelani. She was an orphan living with her aged grandmother. Jelani was beautiful and kind-hearted, always helping those in need. However, she had been struggling with constant bad luck and misfortune. Her crops failed, her livestock died, and her health was deteriorating. Desperate for a change, she turned to Pastor Peter. Pastor Peter welcomed Jelani warmly and promised to help her. He began by praying with her, offering her words of comfort and hope. Over time, he invited her to his private quarters for special prayers, insisting that this was the only way to remove the curse that plagued her life. Trusting him completely, Jelani agreed. One fateful night, Peter performed the dark ritual, stealing Jelani's destiny and leaving her more broken than ever. The next day, Peter performed a spectacular miracle in front of the entire village, further cementing his reputation as a man of God. Meanwhile, Jelani's life took a turn for the worse. She became increasingly ill and withdrawn, a shadow of her former self. Rumors began to spread about Jelani's sudden decline. Some villagers whispered that she had been cursed, while others suspected that something more sinister was at play. Among them was an old woman named Mama Koto, a wise herbalist who had lived in the village for as long as anyone could remember. Mama Koto had always been suspicious of Pastor Peter's rapid rise to power and the nature of his miracles. Mama Koto decided to investigate. She sought out Jelani and offered to help her. Through herbal remedies and ancient wisdom, she managed to restore some of Jelani's health, enough for Jelani to confide in her about the strange rituals and encounters with Pastor Peter. Mama Koto was horrified, but not entirely surprised. She had seen the signs before in other young women who had similarly fallen from grace after seeking Peter's help. Determined to expose Pastor Peter, Mama Koto devised a plan. She would need the help of the villagers, but convincing them would be difficult. Peter's influence was strong, and many would be reluctant to believe that their beloved pastor could be involved in such dark practices. Mama Koto called a secret meeting with a few trusted villagers, including Jelani, to share her suspicions and the evidence she had gathered. Initially, there was disbelief and fear, but as Jelani recounted her experiences, the villagers began to see the pattern. They realized that many young women had suffered similarly after seeking Peter's help. Together, they formulated a plan to expose Pastor Peter. They decided to confront him during a Sunday service where the entire village would be present. Mama Koto prepared a special concoction from her herbs, a truth serum that will force Peter to reveal his true nature. The day of reckoning arrived. The church was filled to capacity, with villagers eagerly awaiting Pastor Peter's sermon. As Peter began to preach, Mama Koto and her group made their move. They interrupted the service and accused Peter of his crimes. The villagers gasped in shock, but Peter, maintaining his composure, tried to dismiss the accusations as baseless and slanderous. Mama Koto stepped forward, holding a bowl of the herbal concoction. She challenged Peter to drink it if he truly had nothing to hide. Peter hesitated, but the villagers, now growing suspicious, urged him to prove his innocence. With no way out, Peter reluctantly drank the concoction. Within moments, the truth began to pour out of him. He confessed to his dark practices, revealing how he had stolen the destinies of countless young women to gain power and perform his so-called miracles. The villagers were horrified and enraged. They realized they had been worshipping a charlatan, a man who had exploited their faith and trust. Pastor Peter was stripped of his position and banished from the village. Jelani and the other young women who had suffered under his deception slowly began to recover thanks to Mama Koto's healing remedies and support of the community. The villagers, now wiser and more cautious, rebuilt their faith, focusing on genuine spirituality and the well-being of their community. Years passed, and the story of Pastor Peter became a cautionary tale told to children to warn them against blindly trusting those who claimed to have divine power. The village thrived under the guidance of wise leaders who prioritized honesty and compassion. Jelani, having regained her strength and spirit, became a symbol of resilience and hope. She worked alongside Mama Koto, learning the ancient ways of healing and using her newfound knowledge to help others. The village never forgot the lessons they had learned, and they remained vigilant against the shadows that could lurk behind even the brightest facades. Thus, the village continued to flourish, bound together by the strength of the community and the light of truth, forever vigilant against the darkness that once threatened to consume them.